Brought to and the Ad Council.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. The home of Kansas City Royals baseball. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
Good morning. Salutations, as they like to say, Harrison. Early morning again. After a victory, though, is all good. Jay Foreman in here inside the huddle. The Huskers move 2-2. We are brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Can handle all your MRI needs, pain needs, and plan needs, which has obviously helped me out some. And I got to go see him again, and probably will be over there very frequently. They do have customer service, but I don't want to be over there that much. But nature and reality has taken this course. But the course that Nebraska has taken is 2 victories in a row, which is hasn't been the norm for quite some time. Much like the Northern Illinois game, the Louisiana Tech game wasn't the prettiest game. A little bit of a slow start. Obviously, going into halftime 7-7 or 7-7. Had some excitement to a kickoff return, obviously, for Louisiana Tech, called back for, I would probably say, a phantom flag, and then an explosive play for Nebraska, which is Heinrich Harburg would have put, it could have been 14-14 or whatever you want to call it, but it would have been 14-7 going into half, and then getting the ball back coming out of half, which changes the whole dynamic of the game. I didn't really see an egregious holding penalty on it by one of the receivers. On the TV copy, they said it was on Marcus Washington. If there was a holding call, I'd probably say it was more on Billy Kemp, but I didn't even see the defender trying to get off the block. So it was it's a judgment call. I could see it both ways, but would I have called it? No. Would I have been upset if I was Matt Rule's case, head coach or a player? Yeah. And, one of the funny things is I watched the game again, and, Nebraska had moved the ball, not easily, but consistently. And then, whether it was a lot of the direct access plays that really hurt Nebraska, right? So you think of the tackles for losses, right? If you look at Louisiana Tech's defense, and they weren't like a big, so back in the day, we played Oklahoma State, like in a kickoff classic down in Kansas City. They changed their whole defensive front and like blitzed every down and had an enormous amount of TFLs, right? Louisiana Tech didn't blitz a lot and got TFLs. And they were kind of a one gap, shoot the gap type of defense, but there's a lot of guys that were unblocked or we missed. We were playing too much on edges. Our edge blockers, in particular, our tackles were too much of on edges. And so then they were able to, penetrate, and they're quick, smaller unit, and got a lot of tackles for losses. And you saw that at a pretty high clip in the first half, right? So you think of the sack on Heinrich Harburg, or actually first play of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Play action pass. Linebacker comes on a blitz. It's kind of a little bit of a delayed blitz. You would like the center and the guard, the left guard block back. You'd like one of them to be able to come off and pick them up because it looked like Anthony Grant had to pick up the outside blitzer, right? So they're going to test your principles right off the get-go. And then, with Ramir being gone, maybe that had some effect, but I'd like to think that, a veteran center and veteran guard could pick that up, right? So then you start off with a sack. Second quarter, the other sack where they block back and the right guard a little late out of the stance, another sack, right? So I think it's just more or less more of the same. But then once, they kind of got going and got their bearings going, I think that the offense picked up, right? And that's where you saw the QB runs and the conventional run yards start to, rack up some. And so I think, initially after the game, you're a little disappointed, I think, but in reality of where we're at as a team and as a unit, I think that we have to make sure that we are understanding that it seems like it's a feeling out process, especially in that first quarter. And I think the coaches are coaching the feeling out, seeing, what team is going to be out there, you know what I mean? Or how, can we execute the basics and then just go from there? And there's a lot of, we have to have a little bit of reality too, is like, there's been a lot of not turnover, but turnover in the sense of you assumed that Jeff Sims would be starting 80% of the games at least. Cause injuries happen or whatever, people get hurt. You didn't think after essentially a game and a half, you'd have your backup quarterback in. And that's not taking anything away from Harburg, but you just wouldn't expect to have a quarterback change via injury this early.
Mm-hmm.
And that changes the rhythm of the offense. And then you got your top two running backs, they're out. And, you have one of your top receivers out for the season. You have a receiver that essentially quit on the team. So all those reps and all those game planning and all that stuff as you're going through, spring, summer workouts, and in the receivers' cases, you're going through fall camp, right? Is all for nothing. So all those reps are important because what people need to understand, and this is not making excuses for what they've been putting on the field. I mean, I could just judge what they're doing, but I also can be realistic. So all those reps that you wouldn't say wasted, but were spent other places were taken away from the Doss, the Malachi Coleman, the Lloyds, the young guys that could have used those reps. So if there is an extra, let's just say between those three players, 100 reps each, that's 100 reps they didn't get to develop. Now, injuries happen, IGC, that just happens, right? That's unfortunate. And you feel empathy for him. But for Betts, right? You would have liked to maybe had a little pause for the cause there, right? And that's kind of a catch-22, right? He works extremely hard to get back eligible. He's meeting all the standards, so you're just going to take him on surface, but then boom. Let alone the Eric Gilbert situation and so forth and so on. So, it's a little bit of, circumstances, a little bit of, ingrained habits of some players that is taken away from some of the younger players. And that's why you see there's a big play in the first half. Marcus Washington, Heinrich Harburg hits him right in the numbers. Big third down. Keep the drive going. Boom. You drop that. The drops, the ones that are in your hands, the ones that you got to catch are have got to get better. And if you're going to play college football at the receiver position, you have got to be able to catch the ball. You need to make the layup catches. Mm-hmm. We drop way too many layup catches at this point of the season.
Well, we needed a lot of them yesterday too. I mean, third down last week was a lot better, but we kind of went back to 3 and 11 third down efficiency.
Right. But you had 3 drops on third down.
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, as much as people can talk about, we have a new quarterback playing. He might not be, he's obviously not Dan Marino or whatever you want to say it. And you got an offensive line that, takes a little while to get going. Okay, well, they must have had good enough protection and a good enough play call, so you can't bang up the offensive coordinator, can't bang up the quarterback, can't bang up the offensive line, and you got some drops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just pitching and catching. And drops happen, but the drops that when you're wide open, you got to catch those.
Which it's been a problem. The drops have kind of been a problem for Nebraska so far. We've had
all 4 games. Yeah, sure. I mean, they've been crucial ones, right? Where like if you win those games, it's like, okay, well, we got to, we won, but we got to get guys, we got to really work at. Now and we won this game. But you think of the Minnesota game for sure, right? And then you think of Colorado at a couple crucial points of the game, and in particular the Bullock one, right? Whereas you got a quarterback that's trying to get his bearings back, and Jeff Sims, he just got sacked literally as soon as he got the ball, and then you had a tackle for loss. It's 3rd and like 16 or something. By no means is Nebraska shown the ability to have a 3rd and 16 play like you're the Kansas City Chiefs. They dial up the perfect play for the perfect defense for a easy first down, pitch and catch. Boom. That's a momentum changing play because it was close. If he would have caught it, he would have been close to midfield. So even if you would have got 8 yards and not the first down, now you can punt and pin them down there versus now you're punting and they're getting the ball and probably the punt returner probably has his heels at the deepest on their 35. And I think that was when it was the punt that had like backspin, like a pitching wedge that went to like their 45 and ended up at midfield. Boom, boom, touchdown. Right? The cause and effect is so huge for this team because our margin for error is so thin. And so in the margin for error cannot fluctuate to a negative against us with drops and penalties, right? And like I said, a couple of those holding calls both ways were subjective calls, right? They're big plays. Like a kickoff, or you give up a kickoff return and touchdown of special teams, you generally lose the game. You get a couple explosive plays called back offensively. One was a touchdown, but a couple other ones, with penalty, you generally kind of like lose the game. So Nebraska's, I wouldn't say lucky to win the game, but they showed some fortitude to get it going in the second half. When you think about it, they pretty much, outscored them 21-0 before that last drive that Louisiana Tech got. And that's kind of like, you're playing prevent. Now you would like the defense to stifle them like they've been doing all game, right? And then they were able to come up with the pick at the, the very end. But, it's still, not back to the chalkboard, but it's back to work, though, starting today. I'm a big believer, you celebrate the wins in the locker room, and then as soon as you leave the locker room, you're thinking about your next opponent, especially when you're playing this way. If you end up being, we beat Michigan next week. Now we might celebrate that Michigan win all the way up until Tuesday. We are set up to lose the game against Illinois because it's the Michigan hangover after a victory. But two teams that you should have beat, then obviously didn't look the best, but it looked good enough to win. But I think they definitely need to have a mindset of, hey, if we are saying that we think we're better, we have to start doing the things we need to do that we can control, right? And that's catching the ball, getting on guys in more of a physical standpoint. And I was listening to Matt Millen, right? And he was talking about the offensive line. He's like, they're a big, powerful unit. He's like, but they don't move people as much as I like. That, and what it tells you is for probably 70, maybe close to 80% of the time they're on their guys, they're just not moving them. Right? You know what I'm saying? To the rate that which would be appealing. That is probably the best description of the offensive line.
Yeah, we weren't winning the line of scrimmage, right, especially in that first half.
Right.
That was the one thing I was looking at a lot for this line. Can they have a game where they don't start off slow?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was again till third quarter they started moving people around. But I mean, at best, they were 1 yard off the line of scrimmage. A lot of times I was seeing guys kicked back.
Yeah.
The offensive line again, I'm glad they start picking up in the second half, but it's just driving me insane that it's this many slow starts.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of, I think the play calling is different. I think it's kind of like you kind of like, I think you're figuring it out. And there was some opportunities there, but when you drop balls and all like that, that stymies any type of rhythm that you get going. And then they figure out, all right, we just got to do the basics and just start bowling over. In particular, I will tell you this: there was a play in the first quarter where the left side they really blocked down. They caved down the whole side of the defensive line, so they were moving them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the tight end had a block that, and now Heinrich Harburg was a little late on his read. He went out a little bit wider. He should have kind of went straight, down on the read option. Well, the tight end was just a little bit, instead of being head up to inside, he was head up to outside on the edge. Well, then that player came in and made the tackle. You know what I mean? So you can't bang up the offensive line for that. That's on the edge. But then you got to think, some of our best blocking has been by our tight ends. On Billy Kemp's touchdown, Borkacher and Fedoni, phenomenal blocks.
Mm-hmm. I've been impressed with the tight ends blocking.
Right. Yeah,
they have been good.
Yeah,
and they've taken that. Like, I feel like they've kind of taken that one personally.
Right.
Understanding that they're going to be a huge part of the run game.
And for the most part, the receivers as well. For the most part. And I will tell you this, I talked about this on another show I do, for in the Black Shirt Breakdown for the Rivals. I think that one thing I said is, like, I think Matt Rule and them know where we're at offensive line wise. And I do think they can get better, right? Because I think that it's a matter of playing with better leverage in burst, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they can play a little bit better. And they've shown the ability to actually play better. It's like they get pissed off finally and start playing like that.
I'll say this too. They were not biting on the play action at all yesterday, which, it's not an excuse for your offensive line, but there were so many times when we went to play action, those linebackers didn't move.
Well,
they weren't getting fooled by
the reason why, because we hadn't been running the ball yet. We ran play action first play of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ain't biting on play action first play of the game.
Good point.
And so, the one thing that I think they've done, and I don't know if this is, I don't think this is like a true offensive identity thing, but what they've done, and if you look at Matt Rule at times at Baylor in particular, I remember watching them and being impressed where they were extremely physical out on the edges, right? So when they were throwing we used to call them now routes, smoke screens, or whatever you want, where you're just getting the ball and throwing it, kind of like what you did at the beginning of Tyreek Hill's career. And if you have somebody that can, kind of like a water bug, that's kind of like a Smoke Harris or somebody like that, Billy Kemp, get him out in space. They were extremely physical on the edges, right? That means receivers were blocking, tight ends and H-backs were blocking. Nebraska's taken a little bit of that on, and I think it's helped in their run game, and that's in the QB run game, and then also in the conventional run game, which you saw yesterday. And then also I think it's helped in the smoke screens and stuff like that. The thing that they were able to get some yards after catch and finding different ways, or trying to find different ways to be explosive. So they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to also weigh it to where you don't want to overexpose your quarterback, right? You've seen Heinrich Harburg get his helmet knocked off, and he got hit a couple times that were pretty good hits. So they're trying to do that, but then also they know that, like, they might have to lean on the quarterback run game more than they'd like. You know what I'm saying, at this point? And I think that with Heinrich Harburg, as he's gotten better as a passer, I just think sometimes, like with his misses, they're just way off. But he's also put some right on the mark. There was one in the second quarter where he had a defender right in his face. He squared his shoulders up, stepped up into the pocket, avoided the defender, and it's actually the first down. Actually, it was the first down they had because he got it to Billy Kemp. Billy Kemp did a really good job, split the defenders, and it was like 3rd and 12, and they got the first down.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good play by a young quarterback, right? And he got it to the receiver. He was able to avoid contact, so he got his eyes upfield and did everything that they've probably practiced on doing. So there is a lot of good things they're doing. I think the things that they need to do a little bit better is obviously being more physical on both sides of the line. Yesterday, I felt like Nash did a decent job, but I felt like our defensive line needed to be a little bit more physical in the sense of being able to get to the quarterback more.
Yeah. You knew they were going to throw it. I mean, the all season they were hardly. I think they finished yesterday with only 42 rushing yards.
Right.
It felt like a game where Nebraska was just going to be able to peel its ears back. I was a little disappointed
Yeah.
by the defensive line. They weren't getting a ton of pressure back there. And especially when you got a backup quarterback,
right?
Feels like a game where you can really get to him.
Yeah, he was. And the thing about him is he's a young quarterback, but I would like to see some more hands-on balls and picks because he overthrows a lot of passes. I mean, like I said, the scheme that they run is short passing, and so it's hard to get there. They were trying to overfeed Smoke Harris, number 6, and Nebraska did a really good job of being physical out on the edges in the corner in the rover position, linebacker position, and stopping a lot of the things that they were trying to be scheme wise. I think it also really, really confused Smoke Harris. He missed a lot of reads on where it went. When their blockers were blocking everybody to go out, he should have cut inside. He was seeing a lot of things that weren't there. So that's kudos for Nebraska on causing confusion on a pretty decent player. Sure, we'd like the pass rush to be better. And that's something that there's going to be just some games that you just don't get home. And so you got to find different ways to affect the quarterback. And we didn't probably do it at the rate that themselves and Coach White and the team would want. And you got to go back and evaluate that and see what you can get better at. I think it's just probably a little bit of technique things and getting on the edge a little bit more. You're not really worried about Louisiana Tech ever coming in here rushing for 300 yards. Not that you're going to give them a whole bunch of yards, but you're not worried about, they're not going to beat you by running the ball. They're going to beat you by explosive plays, making you miss in space. And you saw that in the first half, and really the only legitimate touchdown they got, where it was a simple run play. Mekhi Gaber was there. He had inside out. And you had Newsome or Hartzog there who was setting the edge, and you had an inside out there where he's the easy tackle. He went for the strip, it looked like, but he forgot to wrap up with the inside hand, which would have been his left. Little dude broke it, and he was a receiver, just got moved to running back this week, and 7 points. So those are the self-inflicted wounds. But you can't expect a Nebraska team that's tackled so well. You're playing against opponents. They might not be top to bottom as good as you athletically or experience-wise. They're going to have guys that can make guys miss. They're college athletes too. So you're going to have some missed tackles and stuff like that, but you just got to get better at it. So, I just think that it was kind of a blah game. There's some good things there, and there's some things that definitely need to get rectified or worked on immediately, which would be right now. Because you're staring down the barrel at probably the best team in the Big Ten, and definitely one of the best teams, top 2 or 3 teams in the nation, coming here trying to prove a point. So it's a tall order and a tall task, but if you handle your business right, it's going to give you a good chance to win. So good wrap up first segment. I think we're going to dive into what to look forward to in Michigan and what Nebraska really needs to do to get better in the week, and can they get better? So this is Jay Foreman, inside the Huddle, Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. We'll be right back.
General contractors, business owners, property owners. The success of your business requires doing business with the right people. And the right people, when it comes to drywall, acoustical ceilings, and specialty products, are at Premier Drywall. Kevin and his crew will give your project the response and attention it deserves.
You'll get all of the attention to detail and quality that you would expect from someone who's been in the business for 30 years. For your new builds, build-outs, or renovations, reach out to Kevin at premierdw.com. Premier Drywall in Lincoln.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe. It is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, powered by Sunbelt Rentals. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador, Select Plumbing, Jimmy John's, Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, Fleet Feet, Bure's Cheese Spread on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Old School with DP and J.
You know, earning a black shirt is a great honor. I mean, obviously you got coaches that haven't been here before, but at the end of the day, they understand somewhat of what it means. And the majority of the guys, or the guys that got them, they must be doing something right. For me personally, you know, that was just something I never forgot, man. It was just when I was on campus, because I never envisioned myself doing anything until my senior year.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is "My job is people, everyone is my business." But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
We're back inside the Huddle. Jay Foreman, second segment. Early morning here on O Street, not too active. You know, I don't think people were celebrating too much, but
we had a squirrel run by.
Oh, you did?
That's our peak right now.
Yeah, I know, right? Look, you know, it's funny. You look out here and you got on the blue trash can, you got a Sipple sign. On the green, you got Bill, you got Jake on the pole, and then on the tree right there,
Heinrich Harburg.
I mean, there's decorations everywhere. You got Bill Bush for president over there with a Bush Light beer box in the producer studio over there, Harrison. So you look, people are making sure that we see decorations out here and showing their fanfare or love for some of our other co-hosts on the 93.7 The Ticket. But this is Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. This segment here, you want to dive into what they need to look for in next week into Michigan and what they need to do this week. You know, people always say, how do we fix this? I think it's like you got to get better at your weaknesses. Your weaknesses can't be. I think the best mindset to look at it is how much can we improve on our weaknesses that they're not so glaring and they don't happen at that rate. You know what I mean? I always look at direct access plays. And for this team, that's the simplest way to judge an offense and defensive line. And defense has been getting the pass because they've been playing, right? But they're going to be playing the best running team in the nation, legitimate running team. And you can look at Air Force or whoever runs the triple option. That's not a legitimate running team because they're not in your conference and they're not going to be in a national title hunt, right? Michigan's offensive line has won the offensive line award, I think, the last 2 or 3 years in a row. So you're going to get, they're well coached, they have depth, they're athletic, and they know their scheme, and they're physical. And it's not a tall order that you haven't played well against or you can't play well against, because you did it 2 years ago, and at times you did it good last year, to the point that where J.J. McCarthy was just trying to throw deep, and they actually tried to disrespect you because they knew that you couldn't move the ball on offense when it was elements up there, and Chuba Purdy kind of just got thrown into starting position. But what can Nebraska do to help or eliminate the amount of direct access plays on offense and defense is and what this in particular look at the offensive line is, I would probably say on average, let's just say Nebraska has 8 direct access plays a game. That's 2 a quarter, right? Obviously with simple math. And those in a direct access play is the first play of the game, play action pass. Somebody had to at least come off and try to chip or block that dude. The other play when Conrad Harburger got sacked and his helmet came off. So that's 2 right there, just off the top of our head. And if they had 9 tackles for losses, I'm sure that there was a few more in there. So if you have 2 of those a quarter, 8 a game, if you could even, the best jump would be, which would be a huge improvement where you would have people talking glowingly or more glowingly about certain players or offensive line, is if you went from 8 to 4. That's a big jump. But even if you went from 8 to 6 or 8 to 5, it makes a huge difference. You get what I'm saying? Because in particular, like, look at the sack that Heinrich Harburg got where he had it, where Jeff Sims had to come in. You're close to the 50. It's an 8-yard loss. If you get even an 8-yard gain or a 4-yard gain, you're still on time with the change. You're still on target as far as continue to rack up yardage and first downs in a positive manner. You get a first down or 2. Now you're punting and pinning them down there, versus punting and give them a chance to return the ball, right? And then they could get one big play, and next thing you know, your back's against the wall. First play of the game. Who wants to start that off with a 6 or 7, 8-yard loss? It changes the momentum. And these are plays that you can fix at a higher rate, or as a higher rate, as if you're changing the blocking scheme or putting in different personnel. Because a lot of times direct access plays are no different than coverage busts, right? Because they are controllable and you can control to know the coverage and execute. Like on one of the plays where number 1 made that on Louisiana Tech made on their sideline, it was a 7 cut. Well, it looked like a busted coverage, but the underneath defenders ran into each other. So a rub route. So it wasn't a busted coverage that they didn't know what they were doing. The execution wasn't there, Harrison. So and how that happens, right? So we could just count that as a direct access pass or access play. Well, you have to, when you're either in a negative split with another defender, meaning the 2 receivers are kind of close to each other, you have to have pre-snap communication on who's going to play high and who's going to play low. You got to play at different levels. The reason why is because they're going to run rub routes or have confusion, and then if you're not playing at different levels, you will create confusion. That means you will see things. That means, oh, I'm supposed to guard Harrison. Well, here comes the other dude. Now all of a sudden you're not guarding anybody, and so that's where I think they ran into some trouble, and that's where you saw that pass completed. That's what happened, I think, on another touchdown with Singleton. And so, and I think they ran it on the left side and came back and see if you could fix it on the right side. And you got to be expecting Michigan, who has shown that they are trying to pass a little bit more with J.J. McCarthy this year, to test you deep. And they're going to try to test you deep, not only just taking explosive shots legitimately off of play action, but they're going to try to do it by trying to attack some of your soft spots in the zone, And so you just got to get a little bit better at those direct access plays. And there's another one, they came out in 4 wides or 5 wides and chief borders. I saw the pre-snap communication where Nick Henrik was telling him he's a zone dropper, right? So he's on the line of scrimmage knowing that he has to drop back in zone, right? They knew that, right? Good job on Louisiana Tech. Good job on Nebraska actually having a coverage or a situation to handle that. Well, the inexperience of chief borders, and this is not taking a shot at him, it's just inexperience, right? And this is where you have to have a little bit more figure it out. you know you're in a disadvantage from the get-go because that number 3 receiver is Smoke Harris. So he's faster than you, and he's in a negative split. That means he's going to be in your zone 2 or 3 steps faster. So you either have to change your alignment, adjust the guy up front to get him going to where he needs to. You need to actually get off the ball, or if you're going to fool up or mug up in the line of scrimmage, you can't mug that close to him. Because if you miss him, or if you're late into your drop and you're just covering grass, well, then he gets behind you, and that's where they got a 16, 17-yard completion. Now, if you did do everything you needed to do to cover him and he still gets it, well, then you know what? Tip your hat, say, you know what, you got me. Make them beat you. You get what I'm saying? And that's what Iowa does. They make you beat them. Penn State just beat them.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a whole bunch of coverage, but Iowa's been running this cover 3 since probably I left. Parker's been there forever, so he's been running cover 3. They just probably call it with different personnel. It's cover 3. It's a little zone coverage. They might spice it up with a zone blitz. They'll run man or whatever just to throw you a little curveball. But at the end of the day,
it's cover 3.
It's cover 3. It is, and they run the heck out of it. And they do really good job in their hook drops and stuff like that. But they just got beat. So in that situation, it was a hook drop, and it is. I will tell you, that's a hard job to do because you need to mug up to the line of scrimmage to hopefully affect the offensive line's count. But then you got a heck of a job to try to cover an athlete that's already at an advantage because he's faster and quicker than you, and you have to cover your hook drop in the middle of the field. Now, what you could do is have a check to where you switch it with Nick Heinrich, and then you have Chief Borders blitz and the other guy do it. But at the end of the day, he's still covering a slot receiver. But you just got to – that's the inexperience of being in the game from a Chief Borders. And you see that sometimes with guys in offense that you have to be able to, okay, my number one job is this, not give up an explosive play. My secondary job is to mug up. But when you have to understand, Louisiana Tech is not going to come out in the same formation and same splits as you've seen in practice. They're allowed to do something different. So when they do something different, you have to make minor or major adjustments, especially on third downs like that. So those are the little things that they can improve on. So when people say, how can you fix this, or how can how can we, when you asked me during the break, what's the game plan to beat Michigan? Well, the game plan is make Michigan beat you. And that doesn't mean just to kind of play good enough to be in their way. It's actually to go out there and compete. And competing is lining up correctly, executing, and then going out there and trying to make plays on the ball and play football. And if they're better on a play, then you know what? Make them do it again. Then you start winning some plays. Then you're kind of even Steven. Then you're in a ball game. That's what Rutgers did. Now, granted, Michigan, I'm sure. Look, their fans in Michigan had the same reaction that we did.
Mm-hmm.
How can you go in the half 7-7 with Rutgers? We're Michigan. The return of Khaki Master. Right? Same thing we did. How are we going into halftime with Louisiana Tech that almost lost to the team that had 4 yards of offense, and they're on their freshman backup quarterback? They had a receiver move to running back. They had a ton of guys, playing different positions. Hodgepodge. They had their whole defense is from Stephen F. Austin because that's where the defensive coordinator came, right? Mm-hmm. He's an FCS school. How are they competing with us? And then you turn it on. So Michigan fans are we're in the same boat as we are, and they're probably having the same conversation. As a matter of fact, I was texting with John Jansen. He was upset just like some of us were. But that's how you quote unquote fix problems. You fix yourself first, right? And fixing what you can control is how you execute the defense and put the pressure on the offense in this case, or on the defense in an offensive situation, right? And so, if you have to block down and that's a pretty good defender, you're either going to have an offensive line check or you're going to have to anticipate blocking down and meet him where he's going, not where he was at, right? Make him beat you with a counter move instead of his first move.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that they can correct easily and at a higher rate than say, oh, we need to change our whole scheme. We need to have a totally new game plan for Michigan. It's like sometimes people think like, okay, I got the game plan over here that we're going to play for 11 weeks. And then we got this Michigan game plan that we've been working on since the day that Matt Rule and them got here. And we're just going to bring it out with 3 days of practice. And we're going to go out here in front of 90,000 people and execute it better than the game plan that we were supposed to have for 11 weeks. It just doesn't work like that. And sometimes I always say that people get genie in a bottle and they do something totally different and they work. But the basis of what you're doing, it doesn't matter if you have a new game plan or try to get better at the one you're at. If you're not handling your business and fixing yourself, or I like to say rehabbing yourself, that means maybe getting a little bit better, or in this case, a lot better at some things, then it doesn't matter what game plan you have. And and that's just where we're at right now. And it's a hard situation to be in. But it's an easy situation to be in. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
in terms of like you're not changing your identity.
No, you I mean, you are who you are right now. You know, right now we got two quarterbacks that are kind of the same, right? Running quarterbacks.
Which is why it's important. Like you said, you can't have those, exploit plays.
Yeah.
We're such a rhythm offense.
Right.
And that's why yesterday you see 3 and 11 third down conversions, because we're a team with a running quarterback. Like when we get to a 3rd and 12, like you said, yeah, we had one yesterday, but for the most part, I'd imagine Satterfield has pretty limited play call.
With limited playmakers.
Yeah.
You got to think Marcus Washington had the 2 drops.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have it to where you're not really changing your identity, but you right now we got 2 running quarterbacks, and they, in some ways, they've thrown the ball a lot better than they getting credit for it. In some ways they haven't, because when they are off the mark, they are off the mark. But okay, let's just say let's not judge their misses as harshly and just say, you know what, that's just an incomplete pass, right? Because they definitely are incomplete. You'd rather have totally incomplete passes versus interceptions. So you're in a rhythm offense, and it's predicated on the quarterback / running back run game. They've shown the ability to work the tight end a little bit more and they've done a really good job of consciously getting Billy Kemp started early, right? So you like to see them work Billy Kemp, tight end, Marcus Washington get going along with that to stay on rhythm. And then defensively, do a really good job of pre and post snap communication and execution, and learn from the mistakes or some of the hard positions that Louisiana Tech puts you in, because you expect that from Michigan in some form or fashion. They're going to take what they saw yesterday and marry it to their playbook, and it's going to come around the same situation in the field and the same situation in the game, because they're going to see if you fixed it. Because if you haven't, they're like, oh, that's the easy 6 points. So those are the things that you can do to, in people's minds and when they're watching, fix. But it's really just getting better at it. And, they're facing an ultimate test this weekend in Michigan. I look forward to see where they're at, because this is going to be a true judge of where you're at, because they're going to test you every facet of your game. And it should be something that they look forward to. We're going to take a quick break and come back, and we're going to put another bow on Inside the Huddle. We got actually a little, not a major announcement of a little bit of a schedule change. So this is Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle. We'll be right back.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza, the big one, all the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them, with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay. Playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
If you're a veteran or know a veteran who's having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, the Veterans Crisis Line provides direct connection to free, confidential, and compassionate support. Dial 988, then press 1, and you'll be connected to a trained crisis counselor who will listen, provide support, and connect you to additional resources if needed. Thank you for your service. We owe you our support. Dial 988, then press 1. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
We're back. Short segment. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle. The activity on O Street is starting to pick up. You know, so people that had too many libations probably look like they're picking up the cars and stuff, getting dropped off.
I'll say this: the parking garage is pretty full this morning.
Yeah,
little unusual.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, with a game that gets over at 6, you got plenty of time to kind of catch your second wind, and they were definitely doing that last night. But this is Jay Foreman Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. You know, really, you know, snapshot in the game next week. I mean, there's going to be a lot of talk on who's going to start, you know, quarterback and so forth and so on, you know, rightfully so, right? I said that last night on the Jay Foreman postgame show that after Northern Illinois, Heinrich Hartberg made you have a conversation over appetizers, right? We're having a conversation just over an appetizer, or we're just meeting for coffee, right?
Okay.
Now you're having a full-fledged dinner date per se conversation. We got to figure some stuff out.
Is there any chance like this has to be figured out like before the game, or do you think that you run into a situation against Michigan where are they even going to try to get both guys in there? Or we?
Oh, I'm not playing if I'm Matt Rule, I'm not tipping my hand until whoever rolls out there Saturday at I don't know what 2:30.
Yeah, it's 2:30 again.
You ain't gonna know that until 2:30. I'll tell you. I do like Nick Saban did. I ain't changed my answer, so quit asking. We don't know. They both going to play. I'll be telling them they both look good at practice. Jeff Sims is extremely healthy. He moved around great. They're getting reps. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way I'm rolling it. And you have to. But I also think that they both can play and they both can be effective. So actually, it's not essentially Lions, but That's the way I would do it. And I envision it. There's going to be a lot of talk about that. There's going to be a lot of talk about, how Nebraska can win or, fix things they need to do. Really, it comes down to Nebraska fixing themselves or getting better at some of the things that they have shown the deficiency in, and they will be in a better position to win this game than they think initially. Because a lot of times when you're playing a team like Nebraska or like Michigan and you're Nebraska, where Nebraska's at, all you hear all week is a foregone conclusion. You just roll over and just take it. Well, that's not the game of football. Rutgers has shown you they can go toe-to-toe with them in the first half. Now, they obviously lost their way, and Michigan made some really good adjustments at halftime, and Rutgers probably played it close to the vest. But I think Nebraska offensively is a better skill-wise team than Rutgers. I think Nebraska defensively is right on point with Rutgers, so you should feel confident going in there, and you should be wanting to step up to the challenge. Every time that they've had a challenge, especially defensively, they've done so. So, it's going to be a good test. It's not the end all be all. It's a big game. Let's see who can really rise up to the competition. And it's going to be, as much as we're going to be able to judge the team, the players, the position groups, we're going to see where the coaches are as well. This is the first big game for a lot of these coaches. Matt Rule is a coach in a lot of big games. Tony White is a coach in a lot of big games. Marcus Satterfield last year, he coached in a lot of big games for sure. Foley has been coaching forever. He's been in a lot of big games. A lot of these other coaches haven't coached in this type of magnitude of game. So it's a good experience for them as well. So I look for Nebraska to show well and do well. And it'll be I call it, these are fact-finding missions. You're going to find out some facts. Now, it's not going to be written in stone and go down in the history books, but it's a good start to where, you can kind of not make judgments, but just kind of see where people are at and then see where they can go. This is a great opportunity. Instead of looking at it like, oh, we are outnumbered, we're playing the number 2 team in the nation. Look at it as a great opportunity to measure yourself, but then also do the impossible. Michigan is coming in here thinking, all right, man, this is just another game as they're pointing towards November 11th against Penn State. You should never want to be disrespected like that. So that's the inside the huddle part of it. We mentioned a schedule change. We are going to be moving to Thursdays at 6 p.m. starting this week. Early mornings are going to be out unless something changes. But as I see it right now, what we've been talking about, we will have confirmation, so we'll be able to tweet out stuff on Monday. 6 p.m. Harrison.
Yeah, save you on the post game. Those post games can go late, especially when you get those late kickoffs.
Yeah, post games can go late. Inside the Huddle will be every Thursday moving forward. Jay Foreman is signing off. Advanced Medical Imaging, appreciate your support. 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Hand it over to Pete Ferguson. Enjoy your Sunday. We'll holler at you next week.